How do we remove Donald Trump from office? That is the subject of this video. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I fully believe that if things continue as they have for the last 2 months, if Donald Trump is left in power and continues to destroy the federal government as he has been doing, if he continues to violate the Constitution and destroy the very fabric of this republic, then even if we have elections 2 years from now and a presidential election thereafter, and even if Democrats somehow win those elections, the damage that will have been done will be far too extensive to repair. This country, as it has existed for the last 250 years, will be a distant memory. It will be gone. We need to remove him from office, or we lose it all. That is what I believe is our situation right now. So how do we get rid of this guy? Well, I want to discuss 4 different things, 2 of which I hear discussed quite frequently. Both are terrible ideas, and so I'll deal with those. The third is our best and most obvious option, and the fourth is a creative approach that I've been thinking about. So let's begin with the 25th Amendment, because I hear that one talked about a lot. Of course, that's part of the Constitution. There is a procedure to invoke the 25th Amendment. Here's the problem with it, ultimately, is that the 25th Amendment does not remove the president from office. I know people think that, but it doesn't. It temporarily transfers presidential authority to the vice president, but it does not remove the president from office. It is designed to deal with situations in which a president is temporarily incapacitated for some reason. And there's a process whereby the vice president and, well, let me talk about it before I get into it. There are 2 ways to invoke it. Either a president can invoke it voluntarily, or the vice president and the president's cabinet can invoke it against the president, against his will. So if a president knows that he is suffering from an incapacity of some sort, or if he is going to be incapacitated for a period of time, then he can send a letter to Congress saying, hey, I have this thing going on. I can't discharge my duties. Therefore, temporarily, my presidential authority is going to transfer to the vice president. And when such disability no longer exists, I will transmit another letter to you and let you know that I am back in control. Okay, so that can happen. And that has been invoked several times. When presidents have undergone medical procedures, surgeries, and things like that, where they're going to be, not able to discharge their duties for a period of time, they've done that. I recall George W. Bush doing that on at least one occasion. So that has been done. That wouldn't help us here. The other way is involuntarily, where the vice president and a majority of the president's cabinet can get together and say, look, this guy can't do the job right now. And so what happens is they send a letter to Congress saying the president is incapacitated for whatever reason. He cannot discharge his duties. The vice president is going to be discharging the duties of the president for a period of time. So that can happen. But if a president opposes that, he can send a letter to Congress saying, no, I am perfectly fine. They're not having my power. At which point Congress has to get involved, and they would have to vote by a 2/3 majority in each house of Congress to side with the vice president and the cabinet to temporarily strip the president of his authority. Okay, so that's even harder than impeachment. Okay, remember, impeachment, to impeach and remove a president from office, you need a simple majority in the House of Representatives and 2/3 of the senators to remove him from office. In this case of the 25th Amendment, if a president doesn't go along with his powers being stripped from him and he opposes it, then Congress has to vote to strip him of his authority by 2/3 vote in each house. So it's actually easier to impeach a president and remove him from office than to strip him of his authority under the 25th Amendment. And ultimately, again, the 25th Amendment doesn't remove him from office. It only temporarily strips him of his authority. And if the president later challenges and says, I'm fine, Congress would have to keep voting on this. And here's the problem. Even if we did that, which it's never going to happen, you're not going to get J.D. Vance and a majority of his sycophants in the cabinet and 2/3 of each house to go along with this. But even if you did, Trump would still be president. And his cult would be doing death threats and all this stuff to put pressure on Congress to reverse itself and restore Trump to his authority. So this is a really bad idea. It's a dumb idea. But I think people say this because we're so desperate and people don't really understand how the 25th Amendment works. But it's not a realistic option. The second thing that I hear said quite a bit is that the military needs to overthrow Trump, saying that, you know, the military takes an oath to the Constitution. And here they see Donald Trump violating the Constitution. Don't they have an obligation to rise up and remove him from power? No, that is the last thing you want. You do not want the military deciding when they are going to overturn civilian government. You do not want military dictatorship, okay? This has not gone well in other countries. We do not want to go down that road. And guys, look, like it or not, the American people under our system voted for this guy. This is on the people. The people made this mistake. It is on the people to correct this mistake.